The Cracker Barrel CEO just walked straight into panic mode as the backlash from shareholders turned into a hilarious backfire that, well, nobody saw, that she didn't even see coming. So Cracker Barrel just hit a point where the excuses don't work anymore, and the people running it now exactly know exactly what happened. The leadership at Cracker Barrel watched the stock collapse while just acting like none of it was their responsibility. So the CEO of Cracker Barrel that sat on top while the value dropped by more than half, and the board still pretended the company was not in a crisis of its own making. The shareholders of Cracker Barrel removed their DEI specialist, but kept the same CEO who let this entire meltdown take shape. Now, anyone who's looking at the Cracker Barrel can see that this leadership team has hit the gas pedal toward the wall and now wants credit for tapping the brakes at the last second. So Cracker Barrel is now a company that never had the financial cushion to shrug off a mistake like this large, and the leadership watched the brand lose more than 50% of its value because, well, someone just decided to prioritize rebranding over stability. Now, when shareholders voted, they kicked out the DEI board member and kicked him out the Cracker Barrel, but left the CEO in place out of fear that removing her too would send the stock into a deeper freefall. That choice shows how fragile things have become and how little confidence remains. Okay. Now, the question is, why Cracker Barrel shareholders would keep the CEO after such a steep decline when every signal points to failed leadership? The answer is simple. Cracker Barrel investors realized that removing both the CEO and the DEI executive at the same time would trigger a perception of chaos. Wall Street wanted stability first and then cleanup second. Now, two major proxy firms stepped in to guide shareholders, and both firms recommended firing the DEI figure, but keeping the CEO temporarily. Now, the reasoning was not an endorsement of the CEO's decisions, but an attempt to slow the implosion. Okay, so these firms saw the 50% drop and realized a leadership overhaul could push the stock closer to collapse. Now, investors followed that particular guidance because, well, let's be real, they claimed that they wanted to stop the bleeding before rebuilding. Now, the CEO is now a title holder without meaningful power, which means that she might be CEO as a title, but they're going to look down at her. Like she doesn't have any, say so or whatever and stuff. She got to go ahead and listen to them and follow their direct orders. They're not going to take her seriously anymore. Now, her plans have already been reversed by the same people keeping her in the seat. The board and major investors understand that her rebranding experiment sparked the backlash that gutted traffic and wiped out loyalty. Now, every major strategic decision she promoted has been rolled back. Her influence inside the company shrank because the moment customers rebelled and the numbers confirmed the rejection. And she is the CEO in name only at this point. Okay, now the restaurants that underwent the rebrand will be reversed at double the cost because, well, they had to undo every change. Now the logo is being restored to the original because the stripped down design alienated the customer base. The attempt to go ahead and modernize the brand was based on a false belief that longtime patrons didn't care about authenticity. You see, the customers noticed the lower food quality and shortcuts immediately. Families who grew up with the chain actually recognized the difference, as soon as it hit their plates. Now, that's why the company is returning to its original recipes and its original standards. Fresh cooking is back and the shortcuts are gone because the audience made it clear that they were not tolerating the decline. Now, patrons who were dismissed as unsophisticated proved they could tell when the food quality dropped. The leadership underestimated its own customers at every turn. And now they're forced to go ahead and try to rebuild trust one meal at a time. Now, the deeper issue is that Cracker Barrel needs to stabilize before taking any risk, and the company is not in any position to test new ideas right now. The CEO gets to keep the job only because major investors want time before making another big move. That is the cost of losing half the value of Cracker Barrel in half a year. A leadership vacancy during a collapse of Cracker Barrel would have sent the message that, the company was in free fall. Investors are buying time, not offering approval. So Cracker Barrel has to win back the people it drove away, and the company needs to do it without overcorrecting into another avoidable mistake. Now, the solution is simple. Stay affordable, stay consistent. Get a better menu, go back to cooking from scratch, and rebuild trust with the audience it lost. Cracker Barrel cannot compete with roadside destinations like Buc-ee's on novelty or spectacle. They can compete on familiarity and experience. I mean, that's how the chain grew in the first place. Now, they learned the hard way, to be honest with you, that forcing the entire chain to shift for customers in the Pacific Northwest and California and even the Northeast was an error in judgment. You don't reinvent an entire brand to chase markets that don't understand what built the brand. I mean, the chain was built for travelers, families, and even people who want a break from the highway, not an urban crowd chasing trends. Now, the leadership ignored that truth, and those trends did not carry them through the financial hit, okay? So the CEO's previous work at Taco Bell, as I talked about before, should have been a warning. She made the same decisions there, removing what customers liked, pushing an unwanted rebrand, and misreading the audience. Now, it backfired massively, and then just like it backfired now. Removing the Mexican pizza became a cultural punchline, well, because it just showed how out of touch corporate leadership had become. And that pattern followed her to the next job, okay, which is here. Now, the situation became worse when the same consulting company behind the Bud Light disaster was brought in to overhaul the brand. Now, after watching what happened to that beer company, I mean, anyone with common sense would have just stepped back. But instead, I mean, the board just allowed a strategy built on the assumption that tradition was a weakness, not strength. And that decision hit the fuse for the current collapse. Now, the fallout was obvious to everyone except the people executing the plan, okay? So the branding and experiment swapped heritage for sterile design, swapped recipes for shortcuts, and swapped loyalty for an attempt to impress people who never cared about the brand, about the chain. Microwaved vegetables and even day-old biscuits replaced the cooking traditions that actually built the company's identity, okay? So customers noticed and walked. The failure was avoidable. The damage was self-inflicted, all right? And that's no surprise right there either. Now, if Cracker Barrel wants to climb back, the chain has to return to what made it matter in the first place. That means removing alcohol from most daytime service because, well, road travelers do not want it. They can't have it. It means bringing back the oversized mugs and the classic drinks that Cracker Barrel replaced to free space for beer. Now, the interstate crowd wants reliability, not a bar menu. The company has to choose its identity and commit to it. Now, the safest path for Cracker Barrel is leaning into Americana because the chain became popular by embracing the culture of people that it served. Families want a place that actually looks familiar, not edited. Travelers want a Cracker Barrel that actually is steady and not experimental. Cracker Barrel just has to stop trying to impress the people who were never regular customers. And that is the only way the recovery becomes possible. Okay. So basically, the Cracker Barrel CEO may survive for now, but she survives because investors want a slow transition, not because they trust her leadership. Now, everything she built has been undone. Everything she pushed was reversed after customers made their voices clear. And she can hold the title in name only, but she also lost the authority. The Cracker Barrel recovery now depends on giving people the product that they actually came for. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads and notifications, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace.